We got 3 Moody. All right. That gets you going, doesn't it?
It should.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, Moody, thanks for joining us.
How are you?
I am well. What, Mike, what's your shirt say for today? I can't read. It says,
Be good.
Do good.
Do good.
Come on.
That's it. I only know good. Well, Moody's the CEO of Next, and extraordinary company, by the way. I appreciate you coming on to share some wisdom. Just, curious, give us a little bit of background for those that don't know what you do as CEOs of Next.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Mike, great meeting you. David, thanks for having me on board. Awesome to be with you here. Actually logging in from Amsterdam. It's midnight.
Really?
So here we are. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my God. I could not be logging in when I'm in Amsterdam. Midnight's not a good time for me.
Well, the coronavirus thing has tamed things down, right?
Okay.
City is a bit calmer, but yeah, as you know, being a CEO, it's a 24/7 job, right? So we started the company just shy of 5 years ago with the ambition of codifying the best practices of design thinking and lean methodology to help companies essentially run their innovation and transformation functions. The whole idea behind this was, over the past decades, what we had seen is that every single function, sales, purchasing, supply chain, production, was one day done on pen and paper in chaotic ways, posted, everybody reinventing the wheel every time, before all of these functions got structured into a best practice and then automated by software. I always remember, the Alec Baldwin movie, ABC, always be closing, right? Yeah. I mean, sales was some sort of magic voodoo, right? Closing a deal was like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Until CRMs popped up, and suddenly sales went from magic kind of voodoo stuff to a discipline and a real function, that essentially a process, if you wish, that could be driven by software and managed through data analytics. And so, 5 years ago, when we started looking at this, the world started changing and companies started realizing that what they were doing yesterday is no longer going to cut it for tomorrow. And they needed to innovate and transform and bring new products and services that create delight and happiness in the customer base. And we started looking at how they are doing it. It was a little bit of like, let's order some pizza and beer in a conference room, stare at the ceiling long enough until, some idea comes up. And this is just crap. I mean, this is not how you change the world, right? You got to change the world by, research and discovery, through understanding what customers want. How do they want it? Why do they want it? Trying to identify what are the pain points in the world that we are trying to solve. Maybe a product you're trying to build, the experience you're trying to create, a service you're trying to develop, whatever it may be. It's got to start with empathy, understanding the human, understanding what makes them happy before you start engineering and creating solutions and doing all the features and functions and all that kind of jazz. And, the real fun stuff about this, guys, was that when we started realizing this, we're like, okay, but is there real practices and principles behind this? And what we realized that this stuff like design thinking and lean methodology sounds like a little bit of a buzzword, but it's been around since the year we put a man on the moon. Right? Wow. That's 1969, right? That's over 51 years ago. And so our thinking was to codify them into a software and roll it out so companies can actually do this in a professional, organized way.
What's so funny is I'm listening to Moody and I'm thinking way back when John Henry was going to beat the steam engine through the mountain, which is one of my favorite stories, right? John Henry with 2 pickaxes beating the steam engine. Then it went to Henry Ford with the assembly line, right? And, figuring out how to keep people happy while they're doing the exact same thing all day long. Not to pat myself on the back, I always consider myself the John Henry of SFAs. Of Salesforce automation, because I was the guy with the roll of quarters before they had long distance cars, standing in a booth, seeing how quickly I could cold call with my preordained list that I created at 4 a.m. because I couldn't DM Mike Diamond at 4 a.m. back then. So I actually made call lists where I hand wrote out the names and the numbers, right? But I was like a John Henry of SFA, Salesforce, right? Then you got Benny off of the CRM now you have Moody with the intricacies of design, right? And it all really goes back to me, Moody, my mom told me read history, and she made me, before I went to college, made me read the longest, most boring book, Ben Franklin's autobiography, and that book sucked. It sucked, but as I grew up, it had so much to do with human nature, right? It had so much to do with human nature, like being more interested than interesting, ask for help to become an investment of other people. All these things that I bet nobody else was really understanding. Human nature at its core is what makes things work. And we can use all the technology in the world. And my greatest fear is that technology is out accelerating the human nature aspect of the creativity, of the expression of genius that we're connected to. Where do you find that balance? Because I think so many people are searching for it and can really create fulfillment, passion, purpose, and even profitability if they understand the balance between that pragmatic side of a steam engine, but the human nature side of John Henry wanting with a pick and axe in each hand, right, to beat the steam engine through the mountain. Where's that blend today in the hyper technical field that you're in?
I mean, it's really interesting because, we are a software company, but I always think about ourselves as a company of empathy, right? I mean, you do good. I watch your stuff, David, around happiness. I mean, I always say, we bring software to the world that helps people spot opportunities in unmet customer needs and then create breakthrough solutions that make users happy. Right? That's what it's really about. Technology is just the automation so that, you don't have to put the data on the Rolodex and you don't have to keep all the stuff in your mind, and that there's some sort of automation that can, help you support you in doing this. End of the day, technology is to augment humans. That's what we really need to go back to, right? It's about augmenting humans. I mean, if you think of Alan Kay or Tesla, all these guys, their real vision for computer systems was about augmenting humans. It was not about replacing it. And some of the biggest mistakes I see in companies that we go in to try to help is, people essentially running around with technology saying, hey, here's a real cool technology. What problem can we solve with this technology? And I'm like, time out. No, we need to go figure out what problems people, our customers, our partners have. And then once we understood that, then go and say, okay, what technologies are in the world that can actually solve this? Rather than having it the other way around. So we really are trying to switch this. And, in a changing world, guys, this is so important. I recently wrote a blog post, which was really amazing. It was so welcomed by the community, called Act Like a Child, right? This whole idea of being question-centric instead of answer-centric, right? Asking questions. Just asking questions. What is really awesome, guys, is the recent research in the UK showed that a 4-year-old girl, we're all guys on the call, but, the gals are actually the more curious ones. The 4-year-old girl asks on average 390 questions a day.
Oh, my wife is way above average then.
Yeah, right. I mean, kids just ask lots of questions, because they come into the world and trying to discover the world around them because they don't know. And we keep going around saying, yeah, the world is changing, our societies are changing, everything is changing, and yet we keep giving the rhetoric of 20 years ago. Seriously? Yeah. No, we gotta change that record, right? We gotta start asking more questions. And you realize some of the most successful companies in the world, run on questions. I mean, there was a famous quote from Schmidt from Google, who's saying, we run Google not on answers, but on questions. Every day they wake up and they're like, hey, what kind of question can we answer today? And that's what it should really be about.
So good.
Yeah.
I love how you're touching on emotional intelligence in software, and people don't understand empathy, self-awareness, compassion is all a base of emotional intelligence. Something that right now we're lacking because the social media and everything has put it about me. And you're flipping that script saying, no. How can we serve others? And that's the real truth of purpose. How can I bring value to you? My purpose is to bring value to you. And I love how you're doing that. So here's a question for you, for someone young that's stuck with technology. How did you get to that paradigm shift? Was that always with you, or was it something you observed? Is it a mentor you had? Because it's, to talk emotional intelligence in software is amazing.
Yeah, I guess it's also the essence. So I was a kid, and I always, kind of,
he was a kid too.
Being a kid. And I mean, I like to fiddle with things. I ask lots of questions. There's a really cool picture of me that I always have. I wish I had it already here, of me and my mom when I was 4 years old, and I got the finger raised, ready to point at something. And I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of spirit. So, Dave, Mike and Dave, essentially, coming to your question, I studied. I'm originally Iranian born, so I was born in Tehran. I grew up in France,
Wow.
and having finished my baccalaureate in France, I thought to myself, hey, in France, you kind of need to know at the age of 13 what you want to do when you're 30. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I got to have no idea what I want to do in life, right? So I ended up going to school in Montreal, right? So I went to Canada, went to Quebec, went to McGill, did my undergrad at McGill and MIT. And then, fell in technology. I don't know how to code, do a single line of code. And this is my third startup that I've done. And it's all about technology. And I think, the inability to write code has forced me to be empathetic, because I just can't do what I love to do, right? So I'm always out there trying to understand, where are the gaps? What are people trying to do? And thus having to partner all the time. And so my partners, I've been very lucky to have amazing co-founders in all of my ventures. Having amazing co-founders, I think, is some of the most empathetic skills that you need to have. Be able to attract these people, retain them, work with them, inspire them, be inspired by them, right? Open your heart, open your mind, open your soul, so that they can actually teach you stuff. So it's always been like that, right? And now essentially what we're trying to do, Mike, is to codify that, if you wish. Right. So the same way as if you, Dave, you pointed out, right. The same way as Siebel and Benioff essentially said, there is no sales unless we do qualification, validation, and all these kinds of things. You don't just go in for the hard sell. You got to do some stuff before. We're trying to do, Mike, the same thing in innovation and transformation thing. Hey, there's no solutions in scaling up and charging customers without that discovery, empathy, asking questions, understanding, before we can actually do something that means is successful. And the good stuff, Mike, is when the numbers are on your side, it actually makes companies change their mind. So, if you look at research in R&D, right, for 30, 40, 50 years, R&D has always been about engineering prowess. Who can bring a better answer to market? But if you think why R&D fails, why products fail in the market today, it's not because they were poorly engineered. It's because they solved problems that don't exist.
Yeah, there's no money.
Customers just don't have those problems. I don't care for your app. I don't care for your portal. I don't care for your thing, because I just don't have that problem.
As we come to the finish here, there's two things that resonate with me. Is number one, obviously the ask, right? I tell everyone when they say, what would you tell yourself, when you're 18, 21, 28, I would tell myself to ask, right? Ask how I can be of service or value. What are you doing today? What do you like about it? What don't you like? And I have some standard questions that I can change people's lives about. And I'm always curious, where do we lose that? Because we're born with it. Like you said, the average 4-year-old little girl asks over, 385 times or whatever it is. I have kids myself, and they ask, and I encourage asking. But I'm always curious, one, why we stop asking. And then two, on the other side, maybe because I never learned to code, and I got into technology in 1992, and from XML to everything I was involved with, I never could code. I didn't go to MIT either, or to McGill. They laughed at me if I applied. But why is it, do you think, that number one, people don't ask, but two, like, people just don't get business? Like, in the end, they're all purple dinosaurs out there when it comes to business. And when I say that, I mean, they're literally 99% of the people doing Barney and business in the world are hugging each other all the time with these apps and these SI. And they're like, I love you. You love me. Nobody makes any money. Why won't you buy mine? Right. And it's like, it blows my mind, because I don't know how I was born, but I was born to ask, and I was born to say, dude, give me $20 and I'm going to guarantee you 100 back.
Yeah.
They don't care what's in between, right? Like, how are you going to do it? If it's a baseball card, if it was a dime bag, I don't care what it was. I was going to make them money. Yeah. Why can you help me, Moody? Because you're, exacerbating and accelerating this. Why won't people ask as they get older? And two, why can't they just figure out a quantitative analysis of what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, David, it's an amazing one. Look, here is my thinking about this. I think our society beats it out of us, right? So we're born curious, because we got to understand the world around us. Then you go to school, Have you ever gotten a good grade because you ask a lot of questions in class or challenge the curriculum? No, they would put me in the corner, and then they would call my parents and say, hey, he's disrupting the curriculum, meaning the predefined path that they have made for my life. If I want to explore, and no, you can't do that, right? Then you go to your job, David. What happens in your job? When you show up at your boss's desk with a list of 20 questions saying, hey, boss, here are 20 questions that I am asking today, but I don't have any answers to them. You get a bonus? No, you get bonus for coming up with good solutions. If you bring up some questions to which you don't have answers, well, maybe they'll show you the door, right? And this exactly gets replicated in innovation and transformation, David. We are obsessed with ideas. Ideas suck. They suck. Because, until you've told me what problem they solve, ideas just suck. It's solution thinking. It's introspective rather than trying to look outside the organization, right? So I think our societies and our companies and the way they are organized beat it out of us. But honestly what, David, what is happening is that I am actually thinking that stuff like, the coronavirus and all these shrinking and challenging environment is going to change this. Because there's just no money for that crappy app that doesn't have any fun, that cannot create any value. There's no VC money that's going to go in there. There's nobody who wants to work for that anymore. To your point, Mike, purpose. If you don't serve a purpose, people no longer want to work for it, don't want to code it, don't want to sell it, don't want to market it, right? So essentially all of this stuff, I'm really hoping is just going to get funneled out. It's going to get shrunk out, squeezed out, so that we can actually do some amazing stuff, move humans, humanity, our societies, and create some value for individual users and make happiness and love more prominent in everything we do.
Love
That's
it.
awesome. Thank you so much, Moody. Come back on. We got to have deeper discussions. I love the way that we tie asking and acquiring knowledge into that quantitative value that we provide. And, it's going to be nice. I remember years ago, I was telling anyone, if you have not raised money right now, you will never do it. Because it was 2 years ago, people were stroking checks like back in the late 90s when I was in the Silicon Valley, and they're in for a rude awakening. But yeah, thank you so much. We got our friend Joe Hart. You may want to stay and listen. You CEO of Carnegie Training. Everybody knows them, of course. I've been a product of theirs. What a great discussion, huh, brother?
That was amazing. I love how he did emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
like he nailed empathy, value, empathy. Like people don't get that. That's what we talk about all the time. It's so good.
And he's a hardcore engineer, right? Like he downplayed McGill and MIT. You don't get into you're a serious math guy.
But you know what I liked?
But he's all hard.
But you know what I liked? And you nailed it without even knowing it. Did you realize that you said you couldn't code, but because you can't code, you have the ability to sell?
Yeah.
So you found the niche, and he did that. So I couldn't code, but people like you and me know how to find the niche to bring it together with empathy and sales. The coder's worried about the code. You're like, oh, you can do that. I'll figure out the way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I love that.
This guy knows sales too, obviously, a CEO of Carnegie Training. I don't know if you've been through it, but Joe, I've been a Carnegie guy for years, studied even Carnegie's mentee, of course, Napoleon Hill, and the history of the Carnegie legacy of education and empowerment. So welcome to our office hours. Give us a little update. Carnegie's an old legacy brand. What's going on with Carnegie Training today with, I'm sure, a lot of online empowerment?
Yeah, first of all, thanks. It's great to see you, Dave and Mike. It's good to be with you both.
Hi.
And I know, Dave, you're a big fan of Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. And Dale Carnegie is a brand that's been around over 108 years now. And right now, it's just a completely new business in so many ways. We've looked at, having a footprint around the world of 86 countries, 200 operations. And now we are doing all of that live online, in person, blended. The coronavirus situation has really forced us to accelerate that. And it's been really phenomenal. We're reaching people in ways that we've never been able to before.
What's so interesting about Carnegie Training, I was talking about studying history because human nature never changes. I study Napoleon Hill and Carnegie every day. I have my updates every single day, and it's amazing how relevant it is. And I know there's different methodologies of amplifying and perpetuating the content, of delivering the content, but in the end, that content is directed towards human nature and potential. and how to efficiently, effectively, and statistically successful, pursue your potential. What are some of the key lessons that you've acquired over the years, regardless of how we're delivering it, that really bring that great Carnegie value and Carnegie training that has allowed it to last, through 2 pandemics now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that's right. This is our second pandemic, having been 1918.
Very few companies can say that. You've been selling through 2 pandemics.
We've made it through quite a bit. It's interesting, though, to go back to what you said for a second. So much has changed in 108 years, and yet people have not in so many ways. The technology has changed, the way we interact has changed, the way we communicate. But at the end of the day, we're people, and certainly a lot of the things that you've talked about in your training in terms of empathy and gratitude are things that Dale Carnegie was really an innovator. And I think to myself, I took a Dale Carnegie course in 1995. I was a young lawyer, like you, young lawyer, and that program changed everything for me. And a big part of what it did was it just changed my paradigm about how to interact with people far more effectively. You think about empathy, which is something I know you were talking about with your prior guest. And, Dale Carnegie's one of his core principles, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view, and really to demonstrate appreciation. You listen and you acknowledge every single person has an inherent greatness. So for me, as a young lawyer, that really just shook my world. It changed so much, led me to leave the practice of law, start a business, then another business, and ultimately be the CEO of Dale Carnegie. So it is hugely relevant. I've got 6 kids, and 3 of them have gone through Dale Carnegie training, and I see young people who even though they may not have heard of Dale Carnegie the way that you and I have, or Mike has, and so forth, but it's powerful in terms of the impact it has on them.
Yeah, well, Dale Carnegie, I have 4 kids, he has 6. I guess they weren't teaching abstinence, that's for sure, right? Look at Mike.
Oh my God, John,
your mind moving.
So one thing I love right now more than ever, those principles that have lasted so long, that are so empowering, people really need them. Because, you're talking about core values that are empowering to reach your full potential. Right now, people aren't reaching their full potential because they're, really stuck in their fight, flight, and freeze mode. So how do you kind of because people are so skeptical about things, and they're like, oh, it's an old course. It's been around for so long, and people want the new. But the new isn't actually, you need something that's got, the pedigree. How do you introduce it to, say, be a younger person that's more skeptical with a fixed mindset?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people have heard the name How to Win Friends and Influence People. And sometimes they'll say, wow, that's been around for a while. How is it that you've got this book that's been a bestseller for over 80 years? Yeah. One of the most influential books. So usually that gets people's attention. They know the name, they've heard of it, and they get a little taste of it, and they see that it works. And I think, Mike, to what you're saying too, and Dave, people right now are hurting. People are afraid. People struggle with how they communicate. They're looking for answers, and relationships and challenges are a real. It's a real issue right now. So what happens is they go and they say, what's something that's enduring? What's something that's tried and true? A lot of people have heard about Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett will talk about how this course changed my life. I wouldn't be the same person if I hadn't taken this Dale Carnegie training course. So a lot of people will give it a try. And then once they get into it, they read the book, they take a Dale Carnegie course. It's about breakthroughs. It's about helping people really unlock the greatness that they've got in them. They develop this confidence, and all of a sudden, you were asking Dave about why do people stop asking? People stop asking because they get afraid. You get a little older, you get more self-conscious, you get fear. And part of what Dale Carnegie training is about is helping people overcome that fear and discovering just they've got this greatness that they may not even know that they've had. They go into a Dale Carnegie program and start to see it. They see other people experiencing it. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I could do that. I can get up in front of a classroom full of people and do things I didn't think I could do. And I'll just tell you, when I took the course, there was a young woman in our class. She could barely stand in front of the room. She could barely say her name. She was just by the time she was done with that program, she was a different person. She was out there. She was confident. She's able to give a great talk. So, it's something that really connects with people on a very emotional and personal level.
It's awesome.
And for me, there was the other side. I had it in '93, young lawyer working for West Publishing. They taught Carnegie courses, and I was the opposite because I was a litigator, chose to sell instead of litigate. And I was the cocky eagle that would tell the Carnegie guy, I don't need this, right? I can stand in front of the room. And what it gave me was the other side, pragmatic structure, right? I already had the side that a lot of people get, but how to truly become a professional with your influence. And a lot of things that I do today, and a lot of things that I get credit for today, the two things I get most credit for changing lives are two things I learned from Carnegie that I also was reminded by my grandmother and my mother and my parents. And, number one, gratitude, finding the light, the love, and the lessons and everything. That line, the Carnegie base line, amalgamated and aggregated into all the pain and lessons that I've learned. But it's really, Dale Carnegie teaches you got to find the light, the love, and the lessons and everything. And then two, which everyone knows, ask, right? Like, I talk about ask how you can provide service or value. That's all Carnegie, right to Napoleon Hill. And two, the one that people don't do that we're talking about that can change your life. And I still work on this, and it comes from radical humility. And humility is something too, as I tell you, I was a cocky eagle, and how to work like a journeyman. It was humility of ask somebody for help, right? Do you know anyone that can help me? And what did he do, right? He actually asked Napoleon Hill to help him acquire an aggregate of world knowledge from the world thought leaders to enhance and he funded it, right? And Napoleon Hill himself bought into Carnegie that much that he was willing to work for free at first to do it. So it's so interesting. Gratitude, asking, empathy are constant themes when we have AI that can produce so many different things, and we have this hypergenetic research going on with the pandemic and all these mind-boggling things. It still comes down to the basics of the Carnegie training that are going to allow you to be successful and happy.
It really does. And it's funny. I know you talk about happiness and you just talk about gratitude and asking and empathy. And one of the things that Dale Carnegie, again, going back, it was really innovative when he was doing this, but he really talked about, and it's still so relevant now, is the power of our thoughts. I have a book that Dale Carnegie collected quotes from famous people. One of the quotes he liked was from Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who said, our lives are what our thoughts make it. And one of the things that Dale Carnegie kept saying was, you can have two people in the exact same situation. One is happy and one is miserable. What's the difference? It is their thoughts. And so to focus on an attitude of gratitude and to focus on how do I contribute, how do I give others, how do I listen to other people, how do I make other people feel valued and respected? That was really a cornerstone to what he did and what we do today. And it's part of the reason why relationships are transformed, organizations are transformed. We work with companies. We've had situations where you've got two people on the team who cannot be in the same room with each other. By the time they're done with the Dale Carnegie program, they're able to work together in much more effective ways. But it goes to the types of things that I know you stand for very strongly in terms of your mission. It's all about happiness and confidence and so forth.
And Mike, not to cut you off, because I got to tell this story real quick. My dad was super closer, right? He was an overseller, back-end seller, a little bit of manipulator and liar sometimes, but the man could close. I remember sitting at a baseball game at the Cleveland Indians as a little boy. My parents were divorced, and he was teaching me Carnegie. He had taken Carnegie training himself. He went to law school, sales guy, entrepreneur, and he's trying to tell me about this book. And I must be like 7 or 8 years old. And we're at the baseball game, and he says that exact point about two people can be in the exact same situation, one happy, one sad. What's the difference? And I had no idea. And he told me, he said, look around us right now. And the Indians were losing like 7-1 to the Yankees. He goes, it's the team you're rooting for. And that taught me such a huge lesson, right? You want to seek what you want. You want to vote for what you want. And, you're an Indians fan, root for the right team, root for the right things, as Mike's shirt says, right? Do good, right, when we do that. So I think it's really important to understand we can all be in the same game, and all of us be happy. We just have to root for what we want. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry for interrupting.
No, not at all. I think you're exactly right. And especially right now, and especially in a pandemic, and especially when there's so many things that are challenging, for people to be able to stop and I mean, Dale Carnegie talked about counting your blessings, not your curses, right? I mean, we can certainly focus on all the things that are going wrong. And at the same time, what are the opportunities to look at the things that are going right? I have 6 kids, including twin 13-year-old boys. And one of them said to me the other day, he was talking about how bad of a year 2020's been. And I said, it has been a really bad year in many ways. What are some of the good things that have come out of this? And they said, well, you're not traveling as much, Dad. You've been around more. I said, that's right. We've been having family dinners. I mean, so there are certainly challenges. We're always going to have challenges, but how do we train our mind, and how do we train ourselves to be thinking about the things that are going right and build and learn and continue to get better?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to leave with this one thing. I love the great story when there's 2 guys staring out of a jail cell. One guy sees the stars, the other guy sees the mud.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's all perception of where you're looking and what you're looking for.
You nailed it, man. Well, Joe, we got to do more together. I'm a huge Carnegie fan, and your training course is exponentially valuable to anyone that's out there that hasn't looked into it. What website are you guys at now with Carnegie Training?
DaleCarnegie.com.
Oh, it's been around since the domains have been around. That's a valuable domain. That's like entrepreneur.com is the biggest asset entrepreneur has. I keep telling the entrepreneur guys, who would have ever thought that Unbelievable magazine, all the things those guys have done, entrepreneur.com, most valuable thing, DaleCarnegie.com. Thank you so much, Joe. We'll talk to you soon.
Nice to see you, Dave.
Bye, mate.
What both are doing.
Thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Sorry, man.
All right.
That was so good. DaleCarnegie.com. I've had it for 100 years.
Yeah, I guess the book didn't help you that much, moron. Shoot. Questions. We got a couple questions. So let's bring Cole on. And
hey guys, what's
Cole
going
Market
on?
from the Cole. We got double dose of Dave and Diamond here. We're ready to answer any question you could throw at us right now. We're up. What do you got?
See, I'm a baseball guy. I like seeing that.
That's right.
Righty too. So
I had to fix my hands.
I like it.
I go left
too.
too.
Yeah.
What's the question?
I appreciate you guys. I wanted to just start off with saying sharing a little gratitude. Thanks for having me on the show. I first came into your content, Dave, through the Model Health Show about 1.5 years ago. I think is when I heard you on Sean Stevenson's show, and you shared your story. What you've been through, and it hit me. It was perfect timing, divine timing. I just had finished up going through a personal bankruptcy myself right after selling my business at a loss and going through divorce. Father of 2, 29 years old. So this all happened at 24, 25, 26, 27. And so coming on, listening to his show and then hearing your story, that's when I started following you and paying more attention to what you have. And so I'm at this current moment, I'm obsessed with just learning and growing and expanding my perspective. So I kind of have a 2-part question for the 2 of you guys today. Like I said, I'm 29, so I've had, a decade or so of some adult experience, I will. And so the first part of the question I have is, and again, thank you for everything so far. If you could go back to yourself 10 years ago, and you could give yourself one piece of advice that you knew that person had to apply to their life, what would that one piece be? That's the first part of the question.
I'll go first on it. I kind of always answer because I would go back at 12, 22, 32, 42, and I'm 52. I still tell myself it's on my nightstand. Most people think it's 2 words or thank you. It's not at all. That's inherent in my quantum being to be grateful now. I don't have to have it all over the place. Radical humility are the 2 words that I remind myself because I still don't ask for help. One of the practices I have, Cole, is I look at my sent box to see how many emails I send out with an ask in it, right? I'm naturally out there being of value and of service. That's not a problem for me, but I got to fight for some reason my worthiness of receiving. And I know that I can only give what I receive. And I know that I'm practicing, that getting rid of that whole, the more I give, the more I get. I'm trying to be a ferocious Buddha. The more that I get, the more I can give. And I got to remind myself every day to be radically humble and to know that everybody has a superpower that I don't have. Everyone has skills, knowledge, and desire that I don't have. And if I don't ask for it, I'll never be a part of oneness and unification. So radical humility is my answer.
Mine is fall in love with work that has no end. You never arrive, and you're always good enough. Okay, you have it inside you, but you're trying to. There's no white light experience. It's just work. It's a reset every day.
Yeah,
you just fall in love with process. And that, if I could have told myself 10 years ago when I got the big record deals and opened up the clubs with the rock stars and got the TV shows, I thought I'd arrived. No, that was when the work began. Okay, so it's okay from where you're at. You just fall in love with process.
The process. Yeah, I like that.
I love that. There's no white light experience. I love that. That's a true majesty of calmness. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear each other.
Yeah,
we're good. All right, next question.
So the second part of the question is, if you were to go 10 years in the future, what do you think your 62-year-old self would tell yourself today? What would that advice be today, and how are you going to use that going forward?
I think 10 years from now, I would tell myself two things. See, dummy, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, dummy. You never will, you never do, and you keep on thinking you know what you know. You don't know what you know. And then 2, rule number 6, don't take yourself so seriously. I think every time, if I look 10 years in the future, I'll look back and say, you don't know what you don't know, and don't take yourself so seriously.
I love that.
Man, that's hard to beat because, don't take yourself so seriously. I've got to go with that. It's so true. You know what I mean? And honestly, surround yourself with the right mentors. Get yourself a mastermind group and do not be the smartest person in the room.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that's great. I mean, I appreciate you guys answering both those questions for me. I mean, this hit the spot with where I'm at in my life. And so I'm really appreciative of you guys putting your perspective into me. And I know surrounding myself with people who are, like you just said, Mike, much smarter than I am, who have lived some life more than I have. I'm just really appreciative of your guys' time, of your experiences, and then sharing those and being. I really appreciate the ask, because it's something I've never received well, and I didn't put myself out there to ask for help. So that's something that I can apply to my life instantly, and I certainly will. So I appreciate you guys taking the time with me today, spending this 5 minutes with me, and keep putting out all the love. I really appreciate it.
Email me, Cole. I got some other things I can do to help you too. David@dmeltzer.com is my personal email. David@dmeltzer. Okay.
I appreciate that so much. Thanks, guys. With love. Appreciate it. Peace.
Peace, man. Great questions. Yeah.
It's awesome.
I don't do enough of this, but I like the Q&A. I told the boys to start getting, especially with you, more just a few questions on here. So I think Dave's here with a question first, and then presents.
Cool.
Hey, Dave. I gotta learn to lip read. I'll be the most successful Zoom and StreamYard person.
Right. You just sell the course.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, we can hear you. All right. What's your question, Dave? We got Dave, and Diamond now. You ever know that every Dave is over 30 years old? There's no Daves under 30. They're all Dakotas and whatever their names are.
Yeah, and no baby pigeons anywhere either.
That's wisdom right there. You don't get that every day. No baby pigeons.
There you go.
People are like, what the heck does that mean? Very good.
Hey, grateful to you guys to be here and do this for everybody. Really, really appreciate it. My question is, so I'm working full-time job. I'm trying to make a side hustle, which is related to my 30 plus years in my full-time job, my full-time gig. So what's the most important thing to do before I make that jump? I feel like I'm at a point where I've probably grown it as big as I can grow it without using the time that I use for my job during the day to grow it more.
Mike, you want to go first? Or want me to go? Me?
You can go.
I have a real hardcore philosophy of it. One, I don't like when people tell me they have a full-time job. Right. Because I think number one, shifting your perspective of activity you get paid for and activity you don't get paid for is a more healthy attitude of the 7 days of experiential values that you really have. So the second thing is, for the activity that you currently get paid for, I believe that the activity you're not getting paid for now that you want to get paid for in the future, the key to that is to be a realist and tell yourself, I got to get better at the activity I get paid for. I got to do it faster, and I got to make more money doing it if possible. But I definitely got to do it faster, because the only way the opportunity that I'm not getting paid for generates income is if I have the time and the money to make it happen. And so the only way we have time and money to make that happen is to make the time and make the money. So you have to, and when I say make the money, you're a little bit more experienced than, if you're a 25-year-old, I'd say go sleep in your car, eat peanut butter and jelly, and do what you do better to create the opportunity, right? I love Josh York, one of the young entrepreneurs. He didn't even know how to play golf, but he was so smart. He went to a country club and became a caddy, slept in his car because he knew he needed $15,000 to start his business. Now he has one of the fastest growing franchises in the home fitness space. But it happened because he invested in himself. The way that at our age that we invest in ourselves is to do our jobs better, activity get paid for better. So it opens that activity we don't do. And so you'll find if you change your mindset to shit, I'm not doing what I'm doing really well. I'm actually creating interferences, voids, and shortages because I'm have my attention and intention on something I'm not getting paid for. When you put your attention and intention on what you are getting paid for, all of a sudden the stuff you're not getting paid for, you'll start getting paid for. And that's what happened in my career.
Great. I'm going to piggyback off that. I would work out, I would simplify things and get super disciplined with my time. I'm starting a supplement company out of my garage because I know I can sell the supplements myself. I won't drop shit. I will personally do everything myself. Get super disciplined with how much time I'm spending in each area of my life and trim the fat. Really trim the fat down. Because if you want that side hustle to then be, like Dave said, the thing that's actually generating all the income, you have to look at where you're spending your time and, like Dave said, improve at that thing because that's what's bringing the money. But if you want, you've got to spend more time. You've got to really focus your time and prioritize to the minute. Like, don't waste time, because if you 10 minutes on social media, that's 10 minutes you could be doing calling people or looking for business or doing something or reading. So really, really get that 24 hours and squeeze it. Like, really squeeze it down. And that, for me, it's time management and quantifying that and being super disciplined. Like with everything, I'm disciplined with when I eat, when I get up. I text Dave at 4 a.m. I have vision boards and everything's connected of who's connected to who and how and why. And like Dave always says, asks for help. But know why you're asking. Don't waste people's time or your time. Say, I need this for this reason, and this is the end goal.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, Dave, good luck. Let us know how it could be of service, okay?
Great. Thanks very much, guys.
Awesome. He's a good candidate for my private group that I have. So those are the types we can all help each other and network. But yeah, you focus in on, I think presence is present. What do you think, Maddie? Can we get her on? Hey, good afternoon.
Oh, hi, afternoon. I'm sorry, I was just glitching just now, so my computer just got cut off. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, we can see and hear you. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much, David, for letting me ask a question. So I'll just go straight into it because I know it's 5 minutes. So I'm 19 and I just started, but basically my long-term vision is to create something similar to impact theory and like what Lewis Howes does. Basically, Lewis Howes and Tom and Lisa has just been massive inspiration to me, changed my life completely. And so I want to create something similar for my generation, I guess. And so my question is kind of, what would you do if you were me, just starting out? What I'm doing now is I'm creating a community through my podcast, It's Acts of Action. And I've just kind of started my coaching journey, reaching out to people one-on-one and just talking to them and trying to help them take action on their goals and transformation. And I was just wondering, what would you do as starting out?
I would do two things, especially if I was 19. One is I'd create a segmentation chart. And I'd include that with your vision board. And the reason is, and I wish somebody would have taught me segmentation, acceleration, and growth when I was 19, because one thing 19-year-olds generally don't have is patience. And, and that's because you can only look back and know what you did. You can't look forward and know what you're going to do. And so taking that into account, what a segmentation board does is it allows you to have a little bit of grip by lowering the bar and creating expectations of where you can go. And I'll explain. What I would do today is I would set a goal of what you want in 1 year, of how many people in your community you want, people that will live and die by what you say. And know to this day, the only way you get, and for me, it was 2 people, right? And most people know the story that when I met Gary Vaynerchuk at the Super Bowl 3 years ago, it's now 3.5 years ago, you know, he said, how many followers do you want? I said, I want 2 ambassadors. And it threw him off a hook. And I said, well, I've segmented this out 20 years. So when I'm 70, I'm going to have 2 million ambassadors getting me 2 million. And when I'm 71, I'll have 4 million getting me 4 million. And 72, I'll have 8 million. I'll be one of the most popular 70-year-old men in America by 2 people that will get me 2 people. And so my directive of my first year, if I was 19, would be, can I practice every single day? Like I had the poker champion on today on my Instagram live, and he played 3,000 games of poker a day. Wow. Right? Because what happens is, and I got to get the quote, but it was something like repetition gets rid of the disparity in the aggregate of numbers, right? So if you keep practicing interviewing anybody that you want, practice interviewing, you know, my miniature dachshund, I don't care, but keep on getting to that Tom Bilyeu vibration, that Dave Meltzer, Mike Diamond vibration, that frequency that made you want to do what we do, and just realize I'm going to be 39 years old, and Tom Bilyeu, Dave Meltzer, and Mike Diamond, they're going to be begging to come on my podcast because I'm so damn good. And I have so many millions of people that are ambassadors of mine. I'm going to change their lives and their perspective, the way that they motivated, transferred, and inspired me. So, you know, please, number one, segment it out so you can see it. Just take 2 times 2 or 3, whatever you think you can get a year. But I'm talking real ambassadors, 2 people that will say, presence, man, you got to do this. Every year they're telling 2 more people, you got to listen to presence. You got to watch present. You need her coaching you, and see where those numbers go and keep it in front of you. And then secondly, practice. Yeah. Interview many times as you can. You're just going to get good at it.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback off that. Don't worry about talent. Talent you're born with, skills you acquire. Okay? Do the work. Secondly, you have to know why you're doing it. Figure out the why and the how. What is the service? What are you bringing? And what is the value? Okay? So who is your audience? Okay? And why is that your audience? And then like Dave, play the long game and delay the gratification. If you really want, when I came to America, I was only 23. I didn't know anyone. This was before the internet. I went around and met people. I just shook hands with people. I was in New York City and I would walk around and I went into clubs and I said, I'll promote the club. They're like, this guy doesn't know anyone. And I filled the room because I really wanted to do it. Do you know what I mean? Want it? Like Dave said, work. And I'm going to go back to what Dave said before in another segment. Don't take yourself so serious. It's okay. Yeah.
Not at 19, right?
Have fun. Have fun. Beat yourself up. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Don't. Great advice, Mike.
Don't overthink. Have fun with it.
Yeah, look down. Blaine put a comment in there. It says, here's the quote: repetition reduces variance.
There it is. Great.
Beautiful, right? Repetition reduces variance. Now you have a consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. Segmentation, practice. Don't take all the stuff that Mike said. Presence, you can do this. Just please remember Mike and I when you're famous. We want to come on your show, right?
1,000%.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So great.
Yeah, really cool guest today, huh?
Yeah. And like we always just get in the flow. I mean, come on. It's David.
I know. Diamond. So good. It's so good. All right. Let's finish up. Takeaway for the day.
You know, you just had so many good nuggets with, like, you know, the gratitude and the empathy, and just, I love, you know, all I would say is just be kind, man. That's all I got to keep repeating. You know, just be kind to people. And I'll give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
I got bitten by a dog today. right?
What kind of dog?
Little dog. This dog went after my bull terrier. I have an 80-pound bull terrier, and my bull terrier nearly killed the dog. So I'm walking the baby. Then I see him. I go, do you think the dog would be mean to me if it's just me and you? And he said, no. So I went to pat the dog. He came up to me. He's like a terrier mix, and he latched onto my leg, right? Now, the 15 years ago when I used to drink and do coke, I'd have killed this dog, right? I'd have snapped. What did I do? I stepped back. I gave it space. I went home. I told my wife, I said, I'm just going to go speak to him one-on-one and say, look, you might need to muzzle the dog. Because it's not his fault, and he's a good guy, and we've got rapport, and I don't have to be that guy anymore.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, forgiveness is the means which we unwind the illusion, right?
There you go. So but if I reacted in that fight, flight, or freeze and started to make up a story, like he could have killed my baby, no. So I think we need to get into kindness and love and step back a little bit and not take things so personally, like you talked about a few times.
Yeah, and forgiveness for sure. Like I said, I see forgiveness as a means. Most people don't. It's a means to unwind all of these illusions that we tell ourselves. Like you just said, I see so many people go into that. Oh, you could have killed my kid, or you could have bit my leg off, or I have rabies. I've seen it all. It's crazy.
I still finished an 8-mile hike after he bit me.
Dude, you set a world record with like no stomach or something. I know you're. Please, a dog bite? I wasn't even going to ask. I wasn't even going to ask if you finished the run. Come on.
Imagine if I pulled my leg up. You're like, you're missing your foot. I couldn't miss out. I couldn't miss the dose today.
I don't know why Happy Gilmore just came on with the coach of the golf without the hand, Carl Weathers, and that alligator bit off
the alligator bites his hand up. That's so good.
Yeah, sorry. We gotta leave. My takeaway for the day is up there already, because I thought that was genius. Repetition, because I'm a consistency person. Repetition reduces variance. Because it's the variance that bothers us, and you're going to have wins and losses, but if you can reduce the variance, you're going to have more wins and losses, and you can most of the time also control the big wins over the little losses, which is really nice with repetition. The variance allows us to pick and choose sometimes where we get hyper focused and get some big wins and little losses. That can accelerate us even farther through that segmentation we talked with Presence about. But please, everybody, remember, repetition reduces variance, and the best thing that we can repeat is kindness, not to tie into Mike's stuff. So be repetitious about kindness, extend that variance so that other people are kind to you, and you live in a positive, light world with lessons and love all around you. You are love. You'll be love. You'll see love. I promise you. It's always love to be with my boy Dose, man. We send hearts to each other. Feels a little awkward as I'm lying in bed at 4 a.m. with my wife next to me, but I don't mind. I'll send you all the hearts I can. Get a dose of David and Diamond all the time.
State Farm. It's Jake from State Farm. No, it's Diamond from the Dose. What are you wearing?
You don't want to know. Not when I'm sleeping. Anyway, join me every Friday for free training. This one will be setbacks into setups. A lot of the things that we talk about all the time, but we're going to change your life, change the way you look at things. The things will change by coming to my training. You got to email me, david@dmeltzer.com, or text my number to join my community, 949-298-2905. Remember, in line with Dose, in line with Mike Diamond, and most of all, David Meltzer, be kind to your future self and do good deeds, just like Mike's shirt says. Have a great night. Take care. Peace, Mikey. Love you, brother. Thank you, Matt.
Bye, Matt.